Welcome to Ask a Property Manager, episode number 116. Could you imagine having a tenant that owed you over $100,000 living in one of your rental properties? What do you even do at that point? Well, we've got some answers for you today. Stay tuned. We have a crazy story for you coming out of California. This one comes to us via Eyewitness News 7 in Los Angeles. It's written by Luz Penna. We're going to go ahead and jump in here. Tenant who used fraudulent documents owes over $101,000 using COVID laws to avoid eviction, landlord says. Fremont, California, in January 2020, Rakesh and Tripti's biggest nightmare began. They rented their 3-bedroom house in Fremont to a tenant who they say has been defrauding several landlords for years, but they had no idea. He gave us a check and he gave us a fake W-2 and a fake credit report, property owner Tripti Jane told reporter Luz Penna from our sister station KGO-TV in San Francisco. 2 months later, the pandemic hit. Reporter, is your tenant using the COVID protections to stay in your home? Owner, of course he is. Before COVID, his intention was not to pay, but because of COVID, he's got extra months to stay. These property owners say that their tenant has refused to pay for more than 2 years and owes them more than $101,000 in rent. My health has suffered a lot for the past 2 years. I've been taking depression medication for the past 2 years, said the property owner. Their plan was to use the property in Fremont, California to pay for their children's college education. One of them graduates high school this May. Our financial planning is totally messed up at this point just because we are forced by the county to keep a criminal in our home for almost 27 months, said Tripti. They lawyered up and tried to evict their tenant, who they say had people living in the housing and was charging them for rent. So this tenant was actually subleasing the home. He knows the loopholes of the laws very well. He's trying to prolong this case as much as he can. It's been almost 19 to 20 months and we don't have any verdict from the court yet. We contacted the city of Fremont and the Human Services Department confirmed evictions are not an option right now, not under the current Alameda County eviction moratorium, said Robert Lopez, Community Development Block Grant Administrator at the city of Fremont. When we asked what type of options landlords have, he said, I would suggest the landlord can fill out an application on our website and we contact the tenant on behalf of the landlord and try to help them participate in the program. I assume they're talking about some kind of emergency rental assistance funds there. The city of Fremont paid Rakesh and Tripti $43,000 for 12 months of back rent, but they still feel trapped. I can't even evict them after hiring a lawyer? That surprises me, said Rakesh. I'm going in circles. I have almost talked to every authority in Alameda County, Fremont City. I've spoken to almost everyone. Everyone shows sympathy, but that's not paying my mortgage. Their tenant's case is now with the DA's office for fraud. Reporter, has anything come out of you taking them to court? Property owner, no, not yet. If they can go 19 months into the case and still no conviction, I think this can go on forever. Alameda County has the strongest eviction moratorium in the Bay Area. According to the housing director for the county, Alameda doesn't have an end date for the eviction moratorium. Only after the public health officer declares the COVID-19 emergency over, then the eviction moratorium can expire 60 days after that. The state has an eviction moratorium that is set to expire after June 30th. So there you have it. That story is out of California. This is definitely not the only story of this type. There's quite a few of these out there to be heard. Unfortunately, there are systemic abuses of COVID relief funds happening all over the country. There was also fraud with PPP, EIDL, and pretty much every other program out there. Basically, my point there is to say that many of these government programs that spawned in the wake of COVID had the goal of getting funds out to people as quickly as possible. Some programs did a really good job of that. PPP and EIDL were very fast at getting funds out to business owners, for instance. And some did a very poor job, such as ERAP, which at least here in the state of New York took 8+ months to start paying out applications. They basically sat on money for months for no reason. The flip side to that is that some of these programs do a good job of detecting and stopping fraud, such as ERAP, which claims that their lengthy delays were to help prevent fraud, though we can't really verify that. And then some did a very poor job of detecting and stopping fraud, such as PPP and EIDL. And obviously the fraud has been widely reported in those instances. We're not going to jump into that here. I do want to touch on the eviction moratoriums for just a second. We're finally out of our eviction moratoriums here in the state of New York, which went on for 2 years, the entire duration from March 2020 to think it was the end of January 22 that we finally dropped the eviction moratorium, so just shy of 2 years. California still has a statewide moratorium, as well as local moratoria in various counties and municipalities. So California does have a rent relief program, which this owner has received funds from. As a matter of fact, I think it might have been the local program that they received funds from. However, the funds did not cover the total arrears that this tenant owed. Here in New York, if you took ERAP funds, there were some stipulations on evictions and things of that nature that essentially you were not able to evict a tenant for a variety of reasons. But one of the reasons that you could evict was non-payment. So for instance, if ERAP came in and only paid half of the back balance and the tenant didn't have the other half of that back balance, they would still be in arrears, and that was one of the reasons that you were allowed to evict here in the state of New York. So at least here in New York, at this point in time, this owner would have some recourse, but because they're in California, as of right now, doesn't sound like they have a ton of recourse. However, this issue really started for this landlord pre-COVID. The root cause of this issue is a poorly screened tenant that has now cost them $101,000 and counting. And that is the direct result of poor tenant screening. The article mentions that the tenant gave them a fake W-2 and a fake credit report when they applied for the apartment. There are several ways that you can go about verifying someone's employment information to be accurate. For instance, they were supplied a W-2. So you could take that W-2, which is probably going to be for the previous year, and compare it against either pay stubs from the end of that year or pay stubs from the current year to see if the math sort of lines up. If someone's not making this year what they were making last year, there's questions that need to be asked there. You can also request a copy of their taxes as filed with the IRS. We do this for some self-employed people, where we will actually request a copy of their taxes as filed if we're not sure if we can trust the validity of the information that they're actually handing to us. Essentially, there's a form that you fill out on the IRS website, you print it, the tenant signs it, and you send it over, and they send you back a copy of the complete tax transcript as it was filed. We don't use that frequently, but it is an option if you're really trying to verify and you think that might be your only option to actually get a good firm handle on what someone's income is. Finally, if they are on direct deposit, you could even request a couple months of pay stubs from, I'm sorry, not pay stubs, bank statements. You could request a couple months of bank statements from the applicant and verify the direct deposits. You could request the pay stubs as well, and then you'll be able to verify the income and the deposit to tie that income together. Yeah, it's a little bit of work, but it's worth it when you find out that this tenant owes over $100,000. So it's something to, you know, do your homework, do your verification. You could also try calling the company to verify employment, but this seems to be bringing pretty mixed results at this point. We've all but stopped doing employment verification calls. If you do go with this option, my recommendation would be call the main number for the company and ask for the Human Resources Department. Don't call whatever number is listed on the application for a supervisor or something like that. You may wind up just calling a friend that's vouching for this applicant, trying to help them get into an apartment. And that's not what you want. You want to talk to somebody that can actually verify the actual employment to make sure that this person is working where they say that they're working. As for the credit report, I'm not sure what the laws are in California, but here in New York, there were some changes to the landlord-tenant law back in 2019 under HSTPA that require a landlord to waive the credit and background check fee if a potential tenant supplies a copy of a credit or background check dated within the past 30 days. I'm not an attorney. You need to run this by your attorney, but I don't see anything in the law that says that you can't run your own credit and background check even if they supply you with one. You may have to pay for the cost of it, but I don't see anything that says that you can't run your own credit and background check if you don't think that the information that you've been provided is accurate. You have to accept their copy of it and waive the fee, but as far as I can tell, I don't see anything where it says that you cannot run your own report as long as you're willing to eat the fee. May cost you a little bit of money, but it might be worth it if you don't think that the report that you were handed was accurate. So again, I'm not an attorney. Talk to your attorney about that. Have them review that piece of law with you if you're in the state of New York, and if that's something that you're considering doing, that would be my recommendation. Talk to your attorney. Take the time to do it right, because the asset that you save may just be yours. If you're here in the Western New York region and you need help finding a new tenant for your rental, give us a call at 716-608-3200. We do offer tenant placement as a separate service from our property management offerings. We can help you find the right tenant. We're going to provide you with a move-in condition report showing the condition when the tenant moved in, very well documented in photos. You're going to be able to avoid a lot of those fair housing headaches that can be very, very expensive if you cross that line. And we're going to help you find a tenant that fits your needs. If you're interested in that, give us a call. Again, our office number, 716-608-3200. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something from today's video, if you like this style of video, do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. If you have a friend that might benefit from this knowledge, do us a favor and share it with them. Drop a question or a comment down below, and we'll talk to you soon.